My husband has a brother, 46, who recently had his home burned down to complete ash. Nothing was salvageable. He didn't have insurance. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids. Our youngest is rowdy as heck. He's currently being tested for ADHD. We allowed brother-in-law to stay here, despite me hating this guy. He's been here a week and hasn't returned to work because he's too depressed. My husband works 12 to 16-hour days, depending on the job that day, and is gone a lot, leaving me to deal with the brother-in-law day in and day out. He's currently staying in the guest room. For the past 2 days, he's been making comments. Every time I sit down, he comments about me being lazy. He's laughing when he says it. Clearly, he thinks he's making some sort of great joke. Honestly, I'm not sure if it makes me angry because I already hate him, but the tip of the iceberg definitely hit full force today. My son is off the walls and is just being a handful in general, and my brother-in-law keeps making comments to him and telling him to calm down, be quiet, will you shut up? Or even following my son around outdoors, telling him he's a brat. I tell him to stop multiple times, and he stops speaking to my son at all. I then go make my kids lunch, and brother-in-law comes out and says, "Where's mine?" I tell him he's a grown man who can cook his own food. He goes, "Ain't you the woman of the house?" I ignore it, but then my husband comes home on his lunch break, and he tells my husband, "She ain't much of a womanly type, is she? Couldn't even make me lunch." Again, says it while laughing and trying to be funny, but I've had it at this point and told him to get the heck out of my house. He looks completely blindsided, as if he hasn't been purposely pushing my buttons all day with my kid or me in general. My husband, who already was given the rundown of one more thing and he's gone, did back me. He's also spoken to brother-in-law about the comments, but it's always she can't even take a joke, or I was just playing. Brother-in-law says, I ain't got nowhere to go. So I told him to go live on the street with the garbage for all I care. He takes off. I told my husband under no circumstances was he welcome back here with his misogynistic comments and trying to parent my child. He thinks I may be taking this too far due to how much I already hate the guy, and given the fact that I'm currently 30 weeks pregnant and already irritable. He says he feels bad because his brother of 3 and her kids. Yeah, screw that guy. You don't get to come live in my house and spend all day insulting me. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. OP, there's helping out someone in need and being completely taken for granted. Really glad your husband backed you up here. Your brother-in-law should have been nothing but grateful, helpful, and extremely considerate of you and your family. He chose otherwise and is now reaping the natural consequences of his actions. She ain't much of a womanly type, is she? Couldn't even make me lunch? Gee, I can't possibly imagine why he's single, LOL. She missed the perfect opportunity to call him out using his same mindset. Hey, where's my sandwich? Well, if a man doesn't work, LMAO, the look on his face would have been payment enough. If your husband is having any kind of doubts, remind him that your children are all watching how he treats you and are internalizing those messages. And further, the stress he's putting you under and the effects that could have on your pregnancy. He got himself kicked out. So my teen son, Josh, was having a movie night with 3 friends the other day. One of the boys, Matt, is new. I haven't seen him many times before, so I don't know much about him, except that he's slightly younger than most of my son's friends. The movies Josh and the other boys wanted to watch were horror or superhero themed. Apparently, Matt tried to come up with some other movie genres and ideas, but was shut down. I'm making some hot dogs in the kitchen, and Matt comes in, looking kind of sheepish. I ask him what's up, and he says he's really scared to watch the movies that Josh and the other boys want to see because he has epilepsy, and a lot of the films they chose have strobe light and flashing light sequences. I asked why not to tell them, and he said he was afraid that once they knew, they would try to trigger him on purpose for the LOLs. Now, I know my son like the back of my hand. He would never do anything like that. I tried to reassure Matt of this, but he just shook his head and basically begged me to switch just one movie so he could watch it with them, and then he'd leave early. His logic being that if they didn't listen to him about it, they'd defer to my authority. I thought about it but had to say no, because I doubted my son and his friends would agree to switch the movie without providing a good reason. I suggested to Matt that if he really didn't feel safe telling them, to just close his eyes if he suspected a strobe or flash scene was coming up, and that if he still didn't feel safe, he could just go home. I guess Matt decided it wasn't that big of a deal after all, because he went back in there and didn't complain. But when my wife got home, I told her about how the day went. She was appalled that I didn't switch the movie or confront our son about how they were treating Matt. I told her it was no big deal and that the day went fine. The guys were old enough to handle conflicts on their own. She disagreed and won't back down on this issue. I think I did fine. To be honest, as I said, no harm was done, and I don't believe in getting in between my kids' conflicts with their friends. Am I the idiot? Edit. I did get a hold of his parents the following morning to confirm, because I did have some concerns. He is in fact epileptic, but more prone to petit mal rather than grand mal seizures, so I guess it's not as bad as it could be. You expect a bunch of teenage boys to respect their friend and understand epilepsy when you, an adult, don't? You are the idiot. This poor kid was probably so worried he would be judged and ridiculed for this, and you dismissed it. It would have been easy to talk to your son alone and somehow have them switch the movie and not make it a big deal. Matt has a serious medical condition. It is not a good enough reason for them to change the movie and close his eyes when he suspects flashing lights? Seriously? Horror movies have jump scares for a reason. It's supposed to catch you off guard. Would you really risk a kid triggering his epilepsy because you didn't think it was that big of a deal? Be the adult you're supposed to be, and I'm sure it was a big deal to Matt. He came to you instead of confronting your son directly for that exact reason. He needed the change of movie. Instead, you decided it wasn't a big deal. It sounds like this scenario of intentionally triggering for LOLs has happened to him previously. He probably thinks other boys would do the same. The father's response of, "My boy would never," is beyond naive. As a teacher, I hear this from parents all the time. Even when I and multiple people witness the behavior, the parents still can't admit it. What a demonstration of callousness. Josh has every reason to worry if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Shame on you. Epilepsy's real, and it would have taken zero effort on your part to just pick a different movie. Instead, you ignored Matt's medical and social concerns and created a situation where Matt was at extra risk of a seizure. Crazy. You have no right to decide how bad it is for him. I, male 46, have a brother 47, and he has a daughter nearly adult. My brother and I had a rough childhood and were pretty wild in our teens and early 20s. We did stuff most people wouldn't want their kids to know about, which is understandable. Well, last night I was at my brother's. My niece was visibly upset. I asked what was up. Well, my niece ended up getting her nose pierced without telling either my brother or sister-in-law, her mom. While her mom wasn't mad, my brother was mad. Where we live, you can get most piercings without parental consent at 16. It was just a simple nostril piercing, a tiny stud barely noticeable, honestly. My niece is a very good kid, gets amazing grades, and is kind and respectful. Honestly, this is probably the most bad thing she's done. Well, like I said, my brother's mad about the nose piercing, says he doesn't want to see that on her face. And my niece was trying to argue that it's not permanent, so he shouldn't care, because she could always take it out in the future. It's not a forever thing. Well, I wasn't thinking, and said you really don't have room to talk, considering you had your nipples pierced. My niece's mouth dropped, and she said that just made him a hypocrite for getting upset she had her nose pierced. My brother said I'm the biggest idiot for outing him to his daughter, saying that's something he didn't want her to know about. I wasn't really thinking and just said that because it's what I was personally thinking. Now bro isn't talking to me. So, am I the idiot? LOL, not the idiot. You did the job of a good uncle. Your brother is indeed a hypocrite, and your niece is more than old enough to decide to get a piercing on her own. Exactly. Haha, busted. This is the kind of stuff uncles are made for. Literally, my favorite part of having a nibbling is telling them all the crap their mom and dad got up to when they were younger that the kids had no idea about. As an uncle, it's your job to rat your brother out at every opportunity. Yeah, also, what the heck is about him not wanting people to know about his old piercing? It's literally just a piercing. Who cares? Are they super religious or something? And niece does what she wants with her own body. He doesn't get to police that. Daughter doesn't mean property. As a person with a dad who lied about everything he did to protect me, I think it was fine to tell her. I, 34 male, have always wanted a Mini since I was a kid. It has been my dream car. My wife, 33, had our first child right out of college, so getting a Mini was not exactly practical. Currently, we have 2 children, a tween and a young grammar schooler, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom by choice. I've said many times, she can go back to work and we can pay for childcare. She doesn't have to be a stay-at-home mom. I've spoken with my wife many times about getting the car, and she shoots it down, which is valid. We like comfortable lives, but my wife is big on putting all the extra money into our kids' future. With the context set, here's the conflict. Soon I turn 35, and I got a pretty decent bonus from my performance review. Normally, the bonuses I get go into the kids' college fund. Our oldest already has close to $75K in his fund, and I have plenty of time to play catch-up with our youngest. I took the bonus, plus some extra cash that I've been setting aside, separate from everything else, retirement, rainy day fund, and our emergency savings, in a high-yield savings account. I spoke with our financial advisor. He suggested I invest the cash value of the car and finance the car, since I was able to qualify for a low-interest loan. I did just that. Fast forward, I bought myself a 2024 JCW, fully loaded Mini Countryman. My wife was not pleased. She was extremely upset. I know I should have run it by her. I knew she was going to say no. If my wife wants anything and I can get it, I often get it. Our children get to experience every opportunity they want within reason. I'm not going to pay for something just to have our kids drop it 2 weeks later. They have to show a real commitment to it. We're not hurting for money. I've done right by the family for many years and felt it was okay to get something for myself. My wife started to yell. I explained everything from above to her. She wasn't having it. She was concerned about size, and I jokingly said, "That's why I got the Countryman. It's a bigger car." She didn't find it funny. I said, "We still have the minivan. We can also use that if we need more space." While she was yelling, I told our oldest to get his brother ready. We went out for ice cream. He honked the horn and I interrupted my wife and told her this fight was not going anywhere. I could not return the car, so let us go out for ice cream. She slipped "screw you" and gave me the finger, so the kids and I went out for ice cream. So, was I the idiot here? I do feel my wife overreacted a tad. She put me in the doghouse and is not talking to me. Edit. She bought a car without consulting me, and I was not upset. She bought a minivan. Now, I get a minivan is not a dream car. I came home from work and saw the minivan in our driveway. All I said was, "The new car." She replied, "Yeah, we needed a larger one," and that was the one I wanted. I asked about the financials and left it at that. She felt she needed it, and we could afford it. That was good enough for me. We had a car prior that was still fairly new and had plenty of space, but she felt we needed more. You are the idiot. I know I should have run it by her. Yes, you should have. While she was yelling, I told our oldest to get his brother ready. We're going out for ice cream. Then you didn't even give her the dignity of hearing her out and tried to play a, "Look at me, I'm an awesome dad. My kids love how cool I am" power move by telling them you're going out for ice cream in the middle of her being upset. Idiot behavior all around. Not the idiot. Life is way too short not to go out about enjoying things in the moment. OP states he's brought this up many times, and it always gets shot down. She cannot use the stay-at-home mom card, according to OP. He said she doesn't have to stay home, that it's her personal choice. She cannot hold resentment against him for something she's chosen to keep doing. We deserve nice things. OP is going to be 35. It seems like he's worked his butt off. Why should he not get something for himself? I agree. If she is so looking out for her children's future, she could easily work part-time while the children are in school. Of course, big purchases need to be discussed, but OP's wife's opinion are the only ones considered. And so many people are calling you out for disrespecting your wife to go get ice cream. Parents fighting in front of their kids is damaging to their mental health. This is a discussion you need to have with your wife, but her yelling at you in front of the kids is unproductive. And it is better to shelf the conversation for when your kids aren't around. I, female 27, live about a block away from my parents. They helped me buy my house, and they're awesome. They also babysit for my brother and his wife all the time. However, when they're not available, my sister-in-law will bring her kids, tween, pre-tween, and young grammar school, to my house since I work from home. I've tried repeatedly explaining that I'm working, and she refuses to understand. My parents aren't her biggest fans either, but they've begged me to humor her, so I allow it. They're good kids and I love them, but I also don't enforce her rules on them. Nope, sorry, I don't have organic fruit juice. I have Coke, Mountain Dew, and Red Bull. Or you can drink tap water. You want avocado with an egg on rye? Well, I have potato skins from Costco. What the heck are VeggieTales? My TV has Netflix, Prime, and Disney. Watch whatever you want. She gets mad at me for not following her rules with her kids, but she keeps dropping them off. My brother says I'm being an idiot for just not doing what they want, so I told him I would if they A, paid me to watch their kids, B, supplied whatever their kids were supposed to eat, drink, and watch. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Buy an espresso machine and teach the kids to use it. That's a joke, mostly. But seriously, you're not hiding these things from your brother and sister-in-law. They're choosing to continue dropping the kids off, knowing the situation. They clearly care more about free childcare than they do about organic fruit juice. Honestly, expecting someone who's working to take care of 3 young children is just crazy to me. Like, how's OP supposed to take care of the kids properly and still not be affected at work? You gave them the perfect answer. You bring what you want them to eat. You bring what you want them to watch. I'm working, and I'm here in case of an emergency, and you brought them here without my consent or permission and expect me to take work time to cook and monitor their screens? If you mention it again, unattended children will be given espresso and a puppy. No, no, no. So much easier to give a kid a bag of harmonicas, kazoos, and/or side whistles. Every time the parents throw one out, the kiddo can grab a replacement and continue the psychological torture. Bonus points if you help the kiddos hide the backup instruments of torture around the house, so the parents can never truly be sure that they've gotten rid of all of them. Honestly though, you need to practice saying no in front of a mirror. Your brother has 4 kids, not 3. I read that she's doing it for her parents because they begged her to, and they're awesome and helped her buy a house. Not that she couldn't say no to her sibling. Her parents don't want to babysit, so they're having OP to do it. When in reality, both parents and OP should be saying no. OP, I see why you're stuck doing it. Just get the espresso machine and maybe add on Netflix.